Morning, everybody. It's GT the Vibe Podcast coming at you with another episode. I appreciate you guys rocking with. Please make sure you like, subscribe, and share to the channel. And hit the bell so you can get a notification every time we get on and go live. This is another installment of the spiritual experience. It is about my experience, some friends of mine's experience. I'm gonna actually have a guest on, a few guests on that talk about their experiences. Whenever you are, whatever God wakes you up to the things that you're dealing with. Today's episode is going to be all about it's all your fault. If you've ever been in a relationship where somebody blames every single thing that happens on you, all their actions, every bad negative thing that happens, it's always your fault. I will tell you a couple things. Number one, it is extremely draining and mentally challenging. It's an obstacle that you shouldn't have to overcome. People should be able to be accountable for their own actions. People should be able to take a responsibility for the things that they've done. But there are people out on the in the planet that absolutely positively cannot do that. And one thing I've learned about it is that some people have to have a villain in their story to make themselves a victim. Um, they just have to, right? And so what people do in these instances is they'll choose their partner. They make their partner the villain, right? So they may do something wrong, and it could be a long time ago that they did something wrong. That they blame their partner. Well, it's your fault. You made me do it. Because of you, I did. Because of you, I started to do wrong things, or because of you, I did this thing here that I shouldn't have done. And so the problem is when you have that dynamic in your relationship, what happens is the victim, the person that's making you out to be the villain, or saying or blaming you for everything, will never be responsible for their actions. And a person that's never responsible or never holds themselves accountable to their actions will never change, right? Change starts with accountability. I spoke about this at church with my teens. Because we're talking about taking responsibility. And the class that I'm teaching is for people to get back into the other classes with the other teams. These are people that got kicked out for one reason or another. And so we're teaching them about responsibility. You have to be responsible. So as I explained to them, I'm like, you guys coming to this class is the first step of being accountable to your actions. Now that you're here in the class, change is created through wisdom and experience, right? And so we're able to impart wisdom and give them experiences that we've had to help them make better decisions. And people that don't take responsibility don't make better decisions. They actually end up making worse decisions. And their decisions continue to just kind of spiral and tumble downhill because I mean, like I said, you absolutely have to be able to be accountable for yourself and whatever it is that you do. These people also will surround themselves with people that also aren't accountable, um, with people that won't hold them accountable. And what I've learned in my friends group is that when you have friends that'll hold you accountable, it helps you hold yourself accountable. Now, when you have friends that won't hold you accountable, they also themselves lack accountability. So it's like magnetic. So people that don't want to be responsible and be accountable for their actions are magnetically pulled to other people that don't want to be responsible or accountable for their actions. It's a magnetic pull. And so what happens is they surround themselves with people that are doing things that they probably shouldn't be doing, and they end up um, their identity ends up changing to the things that they're conforming to. And so how that affects the relationship, man, it's stressful. It is extremely stressful when you have to, because for you to be able to do anything, or for you to be able to grow yourself, for the relationship to be able to grow, it takes two people growing together. And so what happens is one person will start to grow, and they'll grow because they're taking responsibility. They're accountable for their actions, right? So if I do something wrong, I have to be accountable and take responsibility for what I've done wrong. I can't go and tell people, well, I held my partner to a high standard. That's the thing that I did wrong, when that's actually not it, right? It's holding myself to a low standard and holding my partner to a higher standard. That's what I did wrong. But in a victim mind, they have to continue to be the victim, so they lack the ability to be honest and tell the whole truth. The truth is normally bent and turned in order to portray an image. And so they lack the ability to be able to do those things. So they absolutely can't be honest. A person who's a perpetual victim can't be honest. Um, when I think about my skin color and like the stuff that people in my skin color have done over the years and stuff, and the riots and looting and all that stuff for George Floyd and all that, it's like That's what a lack of accountability looks like. You do whatever you want to do, but if somebody else does the same thing, they messed up, but you didn't, right? And so you end up blaming the system, or you end up blaming other people for your actions, when the only person that's responsible for your actions is going to be you. That is elementary teaching. So typically, people that have a victim mindset are super immature. Like their emotional intelligence is stunted back to when they were a child, and so they can't even. I mean, they have no conflict resolution, and so when conflict arises, it's immediately either they're going to deny it, right, or they're going to blame you for it. Like one of the two. That's it. And so what happens is, is the partner that is the villain, the partner that ends up being the bad person, ends up getting alienated, right? Because now their feelings don't matter, what, so they can't even speak to this person on what they've done. So if you've been in a relationship, and you've been had conversations with somebody, and you're like literally telling them, hey, like you did this and this hurt me, and they're like, no, I didn't, or they're like, well, it's your fault that I did that. I was just doing this because I'm trying to do this, this, and this because of you. And so if you ever been in that dynamic, it's like a circular motion that just continues and continues and continues. Like you can't step out of the circle until you step out of the relationship. And then once you step out of the relationship, then you can look back in the circle. And then when you look back in the circle, you see it all. It's like you get to a point, and I think that's what happened to me. I got to a point where I was like, dude, I made my mistakes. I manned up to my stuff, took responsibility. I'll tell everybody about my mistakes. I don't care. I'm not trying to hold an image. I'm not trying to act like I'm perfect. Um, but God woke me up, and He was like, you have to. In some of my mistakes, I saw some things related to what I was dealing with in the relationship. And so then I was able to look and see and be like, well, damn, like there's some similarities between these two things, even though they're separate, there's similarities. And so what I started to realize is that there's a pattern, and then I started to realize that, oh man, there's a pattern going on. And I never forget the day, like I went to my counselor, and I was talking to my counselor about circular conversations. I was talking to him about like, and I was just describing how the conversations went. I'd be like, well, I would bring up a grievance or something that hurt me, that made me upset, to my partner, and then my partner would first, she would deny it. It never happened, right? The only time that she would ever say that something happened is if I like had evidence in her face, right? So if it's like a conversation that I remember, it could be from the week prior. The conversation, she might have said something hurtful. She would deny it. Oh, I didn't say that. I never said that. Like, and so I started to become confused over myself and what my belief was. And I think there was a long stretch in the relationship where I was just confused, where I did not know what what was up and what was down. Like my head was spinning. And I think people like this thrive on confusion. As long as you're confused, right? As long as they keep you confused, they have control. So as long as you're confused in this whole instance, they have control. And so I was confused, and so I would even question myself, like, damn, like I know I heard that, but did I really hear that? Because she would just deny. And then after the denial, it always went to now. Since I've had a grievance now, it's like she'll shift and throw something in there. Well, remember what you did 3,000 years ago, and I'm exaggerating, but that's how it goes. Like, remember what you did 3,000 years ago, and I'm over here like, dang man, like dang, I did do that, because I can admit to my wrongs, and I can take responsibility and be accountable for my actions. So then it would switch around, and then I'd be like, man. So then now my grievance is pushed aside. Like what I wanted to talk about is done. That conversation ends. Now it's all about them being the victim. And if you've ever experienced this, you'll know it's a cycle, and it just keeps going in circles and circles and circles until you decide one day that it's time to step out of the circle. Um, and so as I begin to step out of the circle and look back, I started to see patterns. I started to see things, and I was like, dude, this is absolutely insane. Like, it's absolutely insane. And a lot of this stuff was coming from a person that describes themselves as Christian, as a follower of Jesus Christ. And so I was like, and so in my mind, it never made sense. Like, if you're a follower of Jesus Christ, you take responsibility for your actions. You are accountable to a higher standard. But it felt like this person wanted to be accountable to a lower standard, but hold me accountable to a higher standard. Hold me accountable to the Christian standard, but hold themselves accountable to the worldly standard. And we know as Christians that those are two totally polar opposite standards. And so I felt like I was having to live up to this expectation up here, and she was down here. But her expectation was that she deserved a husband that would meet this expectation. And so I thought to myself, okay, if you should be the type of person that deserves what you desire. That was always my mindset. And so that's why I was like, well, if you desire this low level, then that's what you deserve is the low level. Or no, if you deserve the low level, then that's what you're gonna get is a lower level. But it became hard for me to have conversations. Like it was so bad that like I could be going through a lot of stuff, but I could never say nothing. Like I would literally could not say nothing because I knew that what I was going through wasn't going to be as bad as what that person was going through. That person could be going through one thing. I could be going through 10 things all at once, hitting me all at the same time. And what I realized is that no matter what I was going through, it was always hers was always worse. Hers was always harder, right? So it was like a perpetual victim to everything, right? I could never even be. I mean, I don't even think of myself as a victim, but I can never be in that role of being the person that was hurt. Like I can never because I guess I just can't be hurt. I guess I don't know, but I never got to be in the role of being that person that was hurt, and so that really tainted my view of myself until God opened the door and shed light on the situation, and then I began to realize that people with high levels of insecurity because it's hard to bring yourself up to somebody's level. It's easy to drag somebody down to yours. And so what's happening is I was being dragged down to a lower level because that's the level that she was on. And so she got to drag me down. And it's almost like when you're in water, right? Say you're in water and somebody's drowning and you're trying to help them from drowning, right? And they're just freaking out. They're grabbing you. They're more likely to pull you under than you are to pull them up. You got to be strong as heck to pull that person up out of water when they're drowning because they're just like literally freaking out, like, oh my gosh, I'm drowning. So they're just grabbing on whatever they can grab on, and you're trying to calm everything. So you're standing there, you're in the water with them, you're trying to get them up, like okay. And I've actually seen this. I've seen this live, and so they're grabbing and tugging and trying to get up, and you're just like, dang, like it's hard for me to get them above water because they're dragging me under with them. And so I think that in life, that's how life is. It's easy for somebody to drag you down with their insecurities than it is for them to pull you up. And so I was talking to church the other day, and we were talking about walls because these people also say they have a lot of walls, and they'll have walls before you, right? Before you even came into their life. But now that you're here, they have to put their walls on somebody. So all their walls are going to be your fault. It could be walls from childhood that their parents may have caused, but it's not their parents' fault. It's your fault now because you're here. So when people project, when they project some of the things on you, what you have to realize is you're talking to a person with a distorted view of reality. And so with a distorted view of reality, they're gonna taint and twist and turn things, and everything comes to you. So it's like as this camera's pointing at me, it could be walls from way back as a child. It can be walls from a teenager, and these are all, and this could be things that happened before they met you. But then you're in a relationship with them, and now all their walls are because of you. You caused all their walls because they can't self-reflect. They can't look back and say, okay, well, I'm gonna look back. This is what happened here, so this is why, right? And people like this typically will be super loyal to like family, super loyal. Like their family could do them wrong, but it's their spouse's fault. Their family can say something negative, or their family can interfere in their relationship. They won't say nothing to their family, but if their spouse or to their spouse, but if the spouse says something or tries to stand on their own 2 feet against their family, they're more likely to be on their family side. So then it's like that's not even what marriage is, but that's what marriage becomes when you're with the person that's like this. And so what happened to me is there was a lot. It felt like I was married to like 3 or 4 people as opposed to one. I'm thinking to myself like God made marriage for a man and a woman, not a man marrying a woman and her family. Like that's not how marriage is supposed to be. You marry the woman and you make decisions together apart from your families. That's the reason why dads walk the woman down the aisle. You know what I'm saying? He's handing her off to you. You're taking responsibility for her. But what happens is there is it's almost like an inclusivity that happens. And so when it's super inclusive, you're not a part of the inclusivity, right? So you're on the outside. And in these situations, they'll make you feel like an outsider. Like I felt like an outsider. Like I was over here by myself. And the crazy thing is, I was over here by myself. She was on her family side, and then my kids were in the middle. So my kids were in the middle, and I'm their dad. I should be able to make decisions for them. But there was decisions being made behind my back with her family, and so they would make decisions, and then she would tell me last minute, "Hey, this is what we're doing," and I would be like, "Bro, like, how do you make decisions about my kids with your family and not they're my kids? Like, I'm responsible for them 50%. They're 50% mine, 50% yours." But it felt like it was 100% hers, 50% mine on occasion. And so those are things that happen that made me realize that it's all about the blame. So if you're a villain, people have to protect themselves from a villain. And typically these type of people, like I said, emotionally immature, have no conflict resolution, don't possess the ability to take accountability because they cannot self-reflect. They can't look at themselves objectively. They have to look that it's almost like they carry this image of perfection. They do everything to protect the image of perfection, but they're not actually perfect. And so it's like you're protecting the image of trying to act like you're good, but you're actually not good. And so you'll end up with two different. Like I thought I was married to two different people, so it's crazy. But so I would have battles, and I would have to like speak up and be like, "Yo, like I like you need to tell me what's going on with my kids too. They're my kids too, so you need to tell me what's going on. I need to know." And so it's crazy because then even like if I made it, and I felt, and there was a situation, there were instances where I would make a decision for my kids, and like my mother-in-law would be upset and pout about it. And I'm like, bro, like, why are you? These are my kids. They're not yours. You don't own them. They're mine. Their last name is Thompson. That means that I am their dad. So dad can make some decisions. And so, like I said, there was a time period where I felt like I was married to more than one person, and being married to one person was enough. Like that's enough of a headache in and of itself. But then you add in more layers and more caveats to it. It's just like, dude, this is too much, overwhelming, right? So you get overwhelmed. Um, and so, and what I realize is that with all the blame shifting and all being the villain, that's what happens. They treat you like a villain, right? But then if you start to become the villain that they said you are, that they treat you like, then it's like, dang, then they're upset. It's almost like a shock to them. Like I can make this person a villain in my mind, but if they start set like say you say no or set a boundary, you're the most worst person on the planet Earth if you do any of those. You can't do it, right? Because it's your fault that they are the way they are. So if you set a boundary, then it's like, dude, like I'm pissed. I'm like, it's like if I was in them shoes, it's like, well, I'm pissed at you for setting a boundary, even though it's my like I know deep down it's my fault that you're setting this boundary, but it's your fault, right? Deep down, I know it's my fault, but it's your fault. And so it breeds a level of toxicity that is unbearable. Like how I was able to bear it for as long as I was able to bear it is absolutely insane. Like God had grace on me. I had grace on myself. Um, I was very conformative as a man. I'll admit that. Like I would like conform quite often, right? Because I'm a genuine dude. Like I got a good heart. I'm gonna try my best to try to like keep people happy. And so I would conform quite often. And what I learned is the more I conformed, it's like if they ask for an inch, they're gonna if you give them an inch, they'll take them out. And so I would give an inch, I would conform, but then it was like, dude, now I got to conform to everything after this. And if I didn't conform, then I was a problem, right? So the villain, blame shifting. And so if you're dealing with this in a relationship, one thing I will advise you to do, set firm, hard boundaries. Firm, hard, sturdy boundaries, like the foundation of a house type of boundaries. You have to do that because if you don't set boundaries with these type of people, they're going to trample all over you like a stampede. And so that's what I started to do. And what I learned is as you start to set boundaries, you find out that their love is conditional. It's only based on what you do for them. If you stop doing stuff for them, they will treat you different. They will 100% treat you totally differently if you take away what you've done. And so I learned that. And so I started to see through boundaries and taking things away that I'm not doing that. Like you got that. And what I learned is that I learned that it was conditional, but I also learned that it was a part of the identity of blame shifting. So even getting to the end of the relationship, it was all my fault. Like she did it. It felt like she would admit to fault only to get me to stop talking or to stop asking questions. That was it. It wasn't a genuine I admit to fault. It was a I admit to fault so you can be quiet and leave me alone now. Like roll over. I'm done. I'm done talking about this. So I'll admit to fault real quick. I'm done. And so that was stressful too. But that's for another conversation. But really, it's what I want to talk about. I just want to kind of give you guys a game and talk about some things. I do have a couple people that are going to come on that are going to talk about their experiences, and it's an open conversation. We're going to go back and forth with each other. I'm going to tell them about what I've gone through. They're going to talk about what they've been through, and maybe we could shed light on our situations. That's the goal. My goal is to shed light for you guys, so that way you guys have a base to understand that people go through these things. You're not alone. That's the key. You're not alone. Once I realized I wasn't alone, I got a good group of friends that got my back. Then it was able for me to really start to step into the light that God, the path that God set for me. I never thought that God would make my heart grow cold to anybody, but He had to, because if He didn't, I would just allow that stuff to continue to happen. And so that's what stopped it, was the spiritual experience, me awakening in spirit to see things for what they were, to see people for what they are. And I think that was the problem for me early on. Is that I didn't see people for what they are. Now I do. And it's huge. It changes everything. Literally will change everything. So that's my advice to you guys. Please make sure you guys like, subscribe, and share the channel. Until episode 3 comes out, I'll see you guys on the next one.